Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to today's show, and joining me today is Peter from Tenant Legal Protection. How you doing, my friend?
Good, Trevor. How are you?
Welcome to the show. Yeah, I'm good.
Thanks.
Now, the reason why Peter's joining me today is you may or may not be aware, you may have seen it in the news, but there's a alleged incident happened regarding a lot of money, considerable amount of money, and talking about condos. And we were just chatting about things about, guys come out here, myself included, you rent these condominiums, you rent these buildings. And the question I suppose really that we want to talk about today is just, number one is how vulnerable are we? And number two, what can we do, or what's the best way to protect ourselves from situations like the alleged one that's currently being under investigation? So in terms of vulnerability, Peter, how vulnerable are we when we start talking about properties and renting?
Well, we're quite vulnerable because you have many agents that are renting condos on behalf of owners.
Okay.
And if we don't verify with the agent that they have the authority to rent those condos on behalf of the owner, and then whether who's signing the agreement, either the owner is signing it or the agent is signing it. So certain things have to be put in place. So I would say that we're very vulnerable because most people don't think about these things when they rent a condo.
Yeah, I must admit, myself, my policy was to go to the property, look around it, I like this, how much is the deposit, pay the deposit, sign the paperwork, and that's me. And I consider that to be the done deal. But it's not quite as straightforward as that, is it?
No, it's not. No, because if you just agree to sign the contract, sometimes there's things in the contract that you don't notice, like how long do you have to wait to get your deposit back, who's responsible for the regular maintenance on the place, who's going to be responsible for fixing the appliances when they break, stuff like that. When will I get my deposit back? Like I said before, is a key point. Do you have to wait 30 days after the end of the lease, or can you get it back immediately or within 7 days? So there's a lot of things that we have to consider. Yeah.
You mentioned about agents utilising the option to sign the contract and make the contract. When that situation arises, what kind of protection do we need to be looking for? Kind of indications to, this is legit, we're all okay, and there's no issue. What kind of things do we need to be aware of?
So basically, when you are dealing with an agent, first thing you have to do is make sure that they have the authority to rent that condo on behalf of the owner. So there's that. But the more important thing is who's signing the agreement. Does the owner know that the condo is being rented?
Right.
So there's two scenarios. The first scenario is when the owner gives the power to an agent to manage the property. So what that means is that the agent will collect the rent money, sign the agreement in their name, not in the owner's name, and they will be given that authority with a power of attorney. So you basically have a document that says that, okay, so I'm the owner of this condo and I'm giving agent A the authority to manage the property on my behalf, which means collecting the rent, signing the contract in their name, and then they're just going to manage everything. So Martin at Cornerstone does that all the time, but he has a proper power of attorney.
I must admit, when you're just talking, I'm thinking about, I've lived here a long time and I've rented quite a few properties over that period of time. Never ever seen that.
Yeah, and then the second scenario is when you've just got an agent that's renting the condo for the owner, and you never see the owner. So in other words, who knows if the owner's actually signed the contract. So what we have to do is make sure that the owner is aware of that situation. We can do that two ways. The first way is insist that the owner be present when you're signing the contract, so you see him actually sign. Okay. The second thing is if the owner is, let's say, in a different country, and the agent is doing it for them, then what's very important is that you get the contact details of the owner prior to signing the agreement to make sure that they're actually renting the condo. They know that you're going to be renting it out, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to have them, take a photo or a video with their passport, so it shows that the passport that they took the photo or video with in the chat that you have is the same as the passport that's attached to the contract that shows that they're the landlord. So those are two important things, and it's just easy. The guys always just, like you just said, they just look at the place, look at the contract, seems okay, and then let's do it.
I don't even read the contracts. I'm terrible, but I just think, I like the place, I can afford it, so I'm happy, we'll do that. So effectively then, someone could have a condo and the agent's got access to the condo, but the owner's gone back to home to do other stuff, maybe
Sure.
abroad working, whatever. So effectively then an agent could theoretically, if I'm right, potentially rent out the condo without the owner even knowing.
It happens all the time. This current alleged incident, this person had more trust because she actually worked in the building where she rented out all the condos. So she's part of the juristic office. So there was that trust factor. And she was giving people discounts, or allegedly giving people discounts for paying 1 year's rent up front, which you should never do, because you absolutely have no control over anything. And Martin and I from Cornerstone talked about this the other day. You give 1 year's rent in advance, and you absolutely have no control over anything.
Well, I have to say, in Martin's defence, what you just said is absolutely right, because when I wanted to rent, I offered to pay in advance. He said no. He said he said let it settle down first, see how you are. He said you don't need to do that. And I was just like, no, but if I pay up front, number one, I've paid, I can forget about it, it's done. But number two, I was thinking, well, maybe I'll get a discount. And he did exactly what you said. He was like, no, Trevor, he said, don't.
The discount that you'll get is not worth the hassle if there's a dispute. You know what I mean?
And so, I mean, again, talking about our vulnerability, if I've trusted this said person and the owner doesn't even know that it's been rented out, he's on the phone to the person, has it been rented out? No, not yet. But there is actually someone there and they know that the owner's abroad. Yeah. When it goes pear-shaped, I mean, how vulnerable am I?
Well, let's just use this latest example. So some of the guys were able to stay in the units because the owners allowed them to.
Okay.
Even though they had lost all that rent money. They said, you know what, we'll honor the contract because we want you to renew the agreement and stay again.
Yeah.
Because this alleged person was working in the juristic office also took some responsibility.
Okay.
And they placed some of the people in different units that were available because the actual landlords or the owners of those condos didn't want them to stay there any longer. They want to rent it out because they lost that money. Yeah. But, in this type of situation, the tenant is the most vulnerable because if this happens, the landlord could just tell you have to leave and you have no grounds because the actual incident was committed by the agent. So the agent is the one that committed the fraudulent action, not the landlord.
So the landlord then effectively is...
Or the owner, yeah.
Yeah, can just walk away and say, well,
yeah.
Okay, so just throwing a question out here, but surely, how did the agent get access to the property in order to get the keys if the owner hasn't said, yep, here you go?
Well, normally the owners have said, please rent my property, but they don't know that the property's been rented.
Okay.
And in other instances, sometimes the agent works in the juristic office of the building. So they've got access anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just very vulnerable. So you just have to do your due diligence, and that's how we can help if the guys want to contact us.
So, I mean, when you talk about it, I think to myself, how lucky I've been over the last 11 years renting my places. Because I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I literally, as we said already, I just go in there, I'm happy, there you go, there's the money, pay my deposit.
Yep.
Regarding deposits, while I've got you here, and we're going to talk about what you can offer in the way to safeguard people moving forward. If you are considering a long-term rental, and by long-term we're talking like 6 months plus, Peter's going to explain that to you in a second about what you can do in order to protect yourself. Deposits. Now, I've always laughed when I pay my deposit because I consider it to be like an ex-girlfriend. Bye-bye, never going to see you again.
That's exactly what I've heard before. Many people say
never going to see it again. Yeah. So, in terms of deposits, I mean, again, vulnerability. What methods or what means can we put in place to try and help us get our deposits back? Because I'm sure lots of people out there, you walk in. I mean, now I'm a bit of an old sweat now, so I go in and I take videos and photos of everything before I move in.
Sure.
Just so that I can go back and say, and I also put a piece of paper up and time date stamp it.
Yeah.
So I say, there you go, this is me now, this is what it looks like, because I've been in that situation. In terms of deposits, I mean, where do we stand in relation to that? What can we do to protect that deposit? Because sometimes, I mean, if you're renting a $30,000, $40,000 house and you're paying 2 months, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things, but the first thing is actually trying not to pay the second security deposit. So you try to pay only one.
Right.
If the owner rents out 5 or more condos, they're actually not allowed to charge 2 months security deposit. But there's ways around that. Owners can put the other condos in their wife's name, or they can just decide that, you know what, if nobody gives me that 2 months, I'm not going to rent it out. And because both parties can agree on something that's outside the law in the contract, they get away with it sometimes. So what we say to our members is, when we do the condo lease consultations, when we kind of educate our members about all the laws, we say, well, it's much better to pay 1 month security deposit, and maybe if they were asking $10,000 per month for the rent, you give them $11,500, right? Because yes, you're not getting as good a deal on the monthly, but you're not so vulnerable with that deposit when you're at the end of the lease. So that's one of the ways that we can do it. Another way is that the end of the contract terms in the lease have to be clear. So what that means is that when you look at your lease contract, it needs to say, when will I get my deposit back at the end of the lease? So by law, it's supposed to be 7 days, but if you don't rent 5 or more condos, then you don't have to really follow that law. But you should have a clause that says when I will get my deposit back after the end of the lease or when it's terminated. And also at the end of the lease, the landlord shouldn't be able to charge you for regular wear and tear. They should only charge you for damage that's your fault and deduct it from the deposit, right? So an example is chipping paint off the wall. That's not something that the tenant did. That's just regular wear and tear. It happens over time. So that's just one example. A leaky faucet. That's another example. It doesn't happen because it's the fault of the tenant, just over normal use. So tenants shouldn't be responsible for these things, and given the fact that some landlords are used to keeping that deposit because they want to renovate. They want to renovate at the end of that tenant's lease, right? And I know guys just like you that have said, oh, when I give that deposit, it's gone. But actually, that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm giggling to myself in it because it's about normal wear and tear. My dog August, I always speak about when I'm home. I rented a place in off Soy Siam, and I had no idea that he was petrified of fireworks. Had no idea.
Sure, yeah.
So came to New Year's Eve. Myself and my wife were out enjoying ourselves, and he actually managed to. We had a UPVC front door. He actually managed to get through it.
Wow.
Yeah, and we came back. I thought we'd been burgled. I'm like, what the hell? And then August was sat there, and I'm like, and he scratched it all, and I was, oh man. So of course I said to my landlord, I said, now we have a slight situation. I said, there's been a modification on the front door here, and he came round. He was just like, where's your dog? I said, he's out there. He said, right, I'm staying here. You keep your dog. He said, I don't want to go. He said, but could you? And I fixed it. We did it. But when you say about the owner's responsibility if they've got 5 or more properties, how many properties do I own?
How many properties do you own?
Yeah.
In Thailand, I would say none.
How do you know though?
Sure.
So my point being is, when we talk about these the vulnerabilities issue, if a guy says, well, I've only got this property, how can you check, or can you check that?
Yeah, you can make a check in the at the property, at the office where you register properties for when you buy and stuff.
Oh, okay, like the land office.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can check there, but it never really needs to go that far.
Yeah.
Okay, because at the end of the day, when you want to rent, if they want to rent to you and you want to rent from them, if you get the proper advice, you can negotiate those terms. Because even though the owner maybe does or doesn't own 5 or more properties, we try to get the landlords that rent to our members to adhere to as most of those laws as possible.
Okay.
So in other words, try to avoid 2 months security. Make sure you get your deposit back within 7 days after you leave the place, right? And make sure that you're not responsible for regular maintenance at the end of your lease and stuff like that. So we put all those in the contract when we review them for our members before they sign.
So obviously, talking to yourself, and I'm sure you guys will agree, and those of you that have had the horror stories where you've rented and kissed goodbye to your deposit, like myself, I've been there 3 or 4 times. Now, you talk about how you can help. So what is it you offer, Peter, that people that are watching that can take advantage of and say, right, I want to do this because it's going to save me a lot more money in the long run? What do you offer?
Okay, so we have our normal 795 Thai baht per month membership.
Yeah.
Part of that is we review any contract before our member signs it. So what we do specifically for people that want to rent a condo is we'll give them a 30-minute consultation about all the laws, all the condo renting laws.
Yeah.
And then after that, we will, so that basically arms them to go out and with that education, find a place.
Right.
Once they've found that place, then they will give us a copy of the contract. We'll go through it, and we will change the clauses that we would like the landlord to change. Send it back to the tenant, and then he will, or to our member, and then he'll go back to the agent or the owner and say, my lawyer's made these suggested changes, and are you okay? And then he will look at it. He'll either say yes or no. Normally they say yes. In fact, over the last 2 weeks, we haven't had one landlord not accept our contract that we edited.
Revised, yeah. And that's 795 baht.
Yeah. That's just and that's just one of the one of the things, Trev, that we do, right?
I was just about to say, I mean, now let's put this into perspective. If you went to a lawyer directly and said, hey, can you look at this contract for me, please, and can you give it your your view and tell us it, you ain't going to get that for 795 baht.
Yeah. Now we don't want to encourage our members to just do that 1 month thing and then just like, okay, now I'm going to cancel my membership. So we have a lot of other benefits under the under the membership that you would want to keep that plan for as long as you're in Thailand. But let's go to the next stage. What happens if there's still a dispute between you and the landlord? Maybe you think at the end of the lease something is not your fault, but the landlord says, well, that it is. So then there's that one dispute. Landlord tries to charge you for something that's probably should be regular maintenance and you shouldn't be charged for. That's another dispute. Terminating a contract early, that's another dispute. Because under the law, if you have 5 or more condos, or we try to get every landlord to agree to this, you should be allowed with reasonable cause to terminate your lease before the end. So like, if you don't like your neighbor, that's not reasonable cause. If it's too noisy, it's not reasonable cause. But if you have to go back to your country because of a medical problem that you can't get treated for in Thailand, or your job transfers you to another location, that actually is reasonable cause. So if that's a very important clause as well, right? But there's often disputes about that too.
And I think as well, to put what Peter's saying into perspective is, let's just say for argument's sake, let's say you rent a 15,000 baht a month place, which is nothing, and you've paid your 2 months deposit, which is 30 grand. 795 is less than 9,000 baht for the whole year, so you're already quids in, because the chances are now you're going to get your deposit back, and you've got other options and support. But it's not just what I'll do is I'll put a link in down below for the what Peter's offering, the protection. It's very, very good, but it's not just protection. There's so much more that you offer, and it's 795 baht. I mean, we're loads and loads of members, and it's peace of mind. Things like driving, all those kind of things. You've got on-call solicitors, all this stuff. So if you hire a motorbike, rent a car, whatever, all these kind of scenarios. If you're involved in an incident or an accident, whatever, again, you've got the protection and the backup and support.
Sure. Yeah, we have a 24-hour emergency line that the guys can call after hours if there's any serious problem with the police or a serious accident, something like that as well too,
And it's funny, you talk about, this is something again when condos, I mean, I've got quite a bit of experience, so I've lived in a condo here for a long time and different ones. I moved into a condo once, beautiful, absolutely stunning, lovely, fantastic, loved it. Never ever saw myself moving out.
Sure.
About a year into my contract, no, just over a year into my contract, a neighbour moved in next door, clearly was working in the nighttime environment.
Sure.
Coming home drunk, shouting, screaming, arguing with her boyfriend on the phone, music on, and I'm like, no, this ain't how I work. This isn't what I was expecting. And then now I'm in a situation where I'm like, and I left and I moved out. I mean, I went down to juristic. I said, listen, you got to have a word. Like, this is crazy. Didn't matter. Didn't matter.
Sure, yeah.
And in the end, I said, you know what? I'm out of here. And I moved out. So, it's amazing the situation you find yourself in when you can always look back and think, damn, I wish I'd have, come and spoke to you. So,
in a situation like that, you might be out of luck, but because it's not really something that we could say is reasonable cause, but it depends on the situation. Sometimes it could be counted as reasonable cause, especially if what they're doing is like not legal, right? If there's something that they're doing that's not legal, and it's affecting your way of life, your everyday life, and that's possible. So there's not always a the cut and dry situation.
I'm going to throw a scenario, you know, and okay. This is just coming to my head right now. Here's a scenario, right? I absolutely cannot stand the smell of cannabis. So I'm living in my property, and the guy next door moves in, and now he starts smoking that stuff, and it's making my life unbearable. Where do I stand?
Well, basically, we have to go and take a look at the juristic office laws,
Right?
Because they'll have something in there about smoking.
Yeah.
And is your room, you know, is the room supposed to be a smoking room, whether it's cigarettes or cannabis? It's a different story, right? And then, you know, there's harassment laws where that maybe could play a part in if that person who's smoking cannabis is causing a disturbance in the building and banging on the floor, for example. So each scenario is completely different, right?
Wow.
And then we don't know what's going to happen with the cannabis laws in the near future.
Know.
So we don't know if it's going to be legal for everybody to smoke cannabis, no matter where you are.
I was just going to say, they're up in smoke a bit.
Yeah.
Just coming in my head, but But listen, it's been fantastic talking to you, Peter. I mean, guys, honestly, you know, have a look. I'll put the link down below. You know, it's not just what we spoke about today. There's so much more. It's 795 baht. I mean, that's not even a round of drinks. You know, what I mean, it really is, and that's for your whole month. And there's all kinds of scenarios. And again, you know, we're talking about property and about long term. If you're coming out here on holiday, again, you know, please look at the link down below, because you do get a serious amount of support and protection and help and legal advice. And, you know, you don't want to spoil your holiday for the sake of saving 795 baht. It's better to say, look, I've got this protection, because especially when you come out here, you know, you don't know what's going on. You're not really sure what's happening. And suddenly, you know, God forbid a situation arises. Well, at least you've got a 24-hour legal helpline, perfect speaking English. Hey, this has happened, what do I do? And that's worth its weight in gold. But, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you, Trevor.
There you go, guys. So that's today's information about condominiums and about how to protect. I mean, obviously, there's a situation going on right now. It's an alleged situation. There's been no proof or anything yet. So let's just let that run its course. But as I say, if you are in a situation where you are looking at a long-term rent of 6 months, a year, whatever, I strongly recommend, guys, get in touch with Peter, have a chat with him, have a chat with their services, see what they can offer you, because I think, you know, myself, like I said, my deposits, my ex-girlfriend's, bye-bye, see you later, never going to see it again. The only difference between what Peter offers and what I did was I don't want my ex-girlfriend to come back. So, but I would have my deposit back. I'd have my deposit.
Sure, yeah.
All right, so that's it from us, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, please remember, hit the subscribe button and also the bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we bring out a new video. Have a look on Instagram and TikTok. It's going from strength to strength now. Thousands and thousands of members. We're doing short 15 to 30-second videos. So have a look on them, guys. Join us on Discord. Peter's on Discord every single day, very active member. He's got his own channel and his own platform. So again, if you want to ask a bit more questions, jump into there. It's in there, and you can just ask the questions and Peter will answer it. And it's Peter that does it himself. It's not someone random. It's Peter that does it, so you can connect with Peter that way. Have a look on Discord. As I say, it's free of charge. There's thousands of members on there. And if you'd like to support the channel, there's a link to our members area on our website, buzzingpattaya.com. Okay, that's it from me. That's it from Peter. Thank you very much for watching. And please, as always, wherever you are in the world, stay safe.